Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video we'll be continuing our procedural modeling techniques. This time we'll be building this helical column, and it will be a good chance to learn a few techniques. It might look a bit too simple at first, but we will have a challenge or two to face. So yeah, let's get started. So let's start by dropping a geocontainer, and we will start with a spiral. So spiral, and we will set the height to 20, change this to be explicit and radius and set it to 1, and I'm gonna set here 1.2 for the radius scale, and 5 turns, so something like this. And we might want to play with the start angle. In my case I used a value of 207, but you feel free to use your own. So this will be our base, and now let's drop a line, and it will be on the y-axis, and let's match size to the spiral. And let's see, let's scale to fit, and we will need to resize it a bit. So with the transform I'm gonna scale it up by 1.2, so in y 1.2, and let's merge this, and sweep it with the round tube. So round tube, and we will need to increase the size. So let's go with 12 divisions and a radius of 1, and we can set the end cap to single polygon, and we might need to change the thickness individually. So for that I'm gonna place here an attribute just float for the p-scale, and set this to 1.1, and for the default 1.2, so slightly bigger. And now we can start to clip this. So let's clip on the y, so 0, 1, 0, so it clips the bottom. That's fine. Now let's clip the top, so drop another one, and we want a distance of 15 and primitives below the plane, and make sure we fill the polygons on both so we can VDB these out, and that's what we're going to do next. So let's create a VDB from polygons, and I'm gonna set it 0.1 is fine. So we have this. Now we need to smooth it, because otherwise it will have this low polygon look. So let's VDB smooth SDF, and we will smooth it quite a bit to have that rounded transition. So let's go for 20. So as you can see, we already have this look, helical look. And if we convert this now to polygons, it still will look low quality. I'm not sure if it's going through the recording, but I'm seeing some artifacts. So we will have to do some adjustment in here. First of all, we will create a VDB resample, and we will create use voxel size and go for 0.03. So we'll resample the VDB, then we will reshape it since we're going to smooth it, so reshape SDF. Since we're going to smooth it, it's better to dilate it a bit, so 1 is fine. And then we can drop a smooth SDF. Smooth SDF. 4 iteration is fine. And let's look. Now we have a more high quality end result. So let's continue next. So I want to do some operations with this mesh. So this is too high poly. So let's try to quad remesh it just with the default Houdini native node. We want like 5000 is more than enough, and we have a smooth result, which is fine. We can always subdivide it later. So now we will create some railings in here. I don't know how to call it properly, so let's go in here after the sweep and create a null. So now we can create intersectional analysis. We want to create a railing shape that goes over here, over the intersections. So let's create an intersection analysis, and that is already giving us the result we want. Let's just output as a curve. And now we can copy this clip and make it a reference copy, and this will clip the bottom, and maybe copy this one, but for these ones, so for the first one we might want to change the distance to 0.001 so it cuts near the grid. And now we don't have any small parts going on, so we can just, let's see, yeah, let's polypad to join the curves. So polypad, and let's see, yeah, it joined. Now we can just resample, and let's see the final result. So let's use a length of 1 and use subdivision curves. And now we want to use yet another resample, but this time with 0.08. Subdivision curves is fine. Okay. Now after this we can place a null in here, and let's ray the curves to the mesh, because we want them in that specific position, and we want to change it to minimum distance. So as you can see, it's on the mesh and it's where we need them, so right in there. But it's a bit jagged, as you can see the points are a bit going up and down due to the minimum distance algorithm. So let's place a smooth, and we will go like 50, and this will look better. It's already better. And now what will we do next? Okay, we can create the sweep, since we want to create those railings. I keep calling it railings, but there must be a decent name for that. So we want to create this, and now go with the normal, and let's check how it looks. It's not looking bad, but in this case I want to create a specific shape which is more elongated in one side. So for that I'm going to create lab simple shapes, and this will be a quad, and not equal, so copy the top to the base, and I'm gonna use 0.4 in here and 1.17. Let's see how that looks. So it looks something like this, and let's go in the XY plane and let's use this to sweep, and let's change this to cross section. And of course we need to scale down this to 0.3, but as you can see we need to orient this somehow because it won't look correct over our mesh, as you can see. So we need to create an orient attribute or an up and normal vectors to point them down. So let's do exactly that, or maybe I'm thinking here, maybe we can attribute transfer the normals. Maybe we can do that, so let's try. And let's see if, first of all, if we have normals, and we don't, so let's create normal on points and let's transfer those normals. And this is looking alright, so I'm just testing. I did it in a different way, and now we can attribute swap, and let's swap the normal for the up, and we will move, and let's see, still giving us a few issues, so let's try an orient along curve and do this as up. Not really what I was expecting, so let's maybe try 1.1 in here and 0.4 in here, and this is more like it, although we have some issues. But maybe we can just attribute blur. Let me see, not attribute blur in here, but let's see, up. Let's maybe attribute blur in here, but instead the N, and let's keep it to default and do a few iterations. It's not showing me the N. Oh, I'm doing the attribute swap, sorry. So let's blur it. We go with 500, and now we can swap it and create the sweep. Does that help? Maybe it's because our curve is a bit messed up. Oh, okay, let's not pin the border points. And now do the attribute swap and the sweep. Let's see, and that is looking better. Let's try 300. So that is looking fine. Let's see how it looks over our mesh, and it's almost perfect. I believe is this way, so maybe we can decrease the size. Sorry for this ramble, but I was trying something different in here, and maybe you could learn a thing or two. So that's basically done. Now let's focus on the next part. So now we need to create some points here on this middle part to place the flowers. And we will need a bit of vex for that. So maybe in here after the smooth, let's create a null. And we have these shapes, these curves. So we need to create center points. So let's maybe try to do this quickly. So we will need the XYZ distance to measure the distance between the two curves. So let's go with a float. Dist equals XYZ dist, and it will be on input 1, and we will need to set a prim group, in this case primitive 1, and on the position. And we will also sample only the first curve, and the group type set to primitives. Now we will need to create a point, so int point equals to add point, and it will be on the incoming geometry, and we will set the position to be at p.x. Let's just divide it here, and at p.z. And on the y we will add, so we'll add the distance divided by 2, and this should place it in the center, or not in the center, but where we want it to be. So let's see. In this case, not really. So, let's see why. This should be in here. So maybe let's... yeah, it's negative in this case, because the order of the curves must be swapped. Let's check, and yeah, it's correct now. So that's it. That's our middle points, and now we will group them. So set point group, and it will be on the incoming geometry, and let's call it center point, and the point number will be pt, we just created, and set it to 1. So if we check our points, and we have the center points. So now let's isolate those points. So let's blast and delete non-selected, and let's create a curve from it. So an edge should do the trick, and it does. Resample, because we have way too many points, so we will resample by a length of 0.5 and set it to subdivision curves. That is fine. Now we will need those normals, so we can just object merge here this geometry, I believe is this one, yes, and let's use vex again to transfer those normals. So in here we'll create an int it prim, because we will need this for the prim uv functions. So vector it uvw, and we'll create xyz dist 1 in this case, which is the column v at p and it prim and it UVW with so many spaces. And now we can just in this case I'm not getting the normals, I'm getting the UVs. Will that be useful for me? I don't think we need this, so sorry about that, because I was experimenting with cops, but in the end I don't need those UVs, so I was just going to sample the UVs to have them on the curves, but I don't actually need them. So let's just set in here out points, and I will just create, I will use again this geometry and ray that in this case set to minimum distance, and it will be right on the center. And we might need a peak over here, but we need to import, actually we need to sample the normal, so normal, and now if we pick, as you can see, is working. So let's keep it like that for now. And we will resample these now. To 0.6, so it doesn't change much, and set it to subdivision curves. And now we want to place some flower patterns in here, so let's see, and let's create that for now before we orient it. So I'm gonna start in here with a circle, which will be 4 divisions, since we want to create, it's a very simple setup, so, and create a circle again with, let's say, 64, just copy the points, oops, these in here, and this will be just fine. And let's boolean or union, boolean, set it to union. Let's dissolve flat edges to remove those inner geometry, inner edges. And now you have two options. You can either remesh it, so remesh, and you will have something like this. You can play with the iterations and smoothing. You either do that, but since I have the exoside quad remesher, I will use it. So set to 500, and let's see, and mirror on the X and the Y. We can try the quad remesh, but it won't work really well, as you can see. So let's set this to 500. As you can see, it's not really good. Maybe we can remesh it first and then quad remesh it. Let's try that. Even that is a bit of a mess. So either way, either remesh or the exoside quad remesher. I'm going to go with the quad remesher. So, and now we want to create in here a mask, so we can change the depth of this flower, so it goes a bit in on the right part. That way they can overlap in a pattern. I hope that makes sense. So let's create an attribute adjust float, and this will be called center. First, before that directional mask, we will create one from the center. So let's visualize it, and we want this to be radial, and let's invert it and place it in here, and something like this will be fine, I guess. Let's duplicate this and call this one mask X, and let's set it to bounding box. Let's reverse this and see, and we might need to change the interpolation in here. So first of all, this needs to be on the X, so it's correct, and let's change the interpolation to B-spline. Does that make a difference? I believe so. On the geometry it will. And now let's just displace it. So we have the center, which we want it to be flat, and we have the directional mask to change the depth. So let's create an natural triangle, which will be a lot simpler to work with. And we will do position on the Z will be plus equals to F at mask X times channel float, which will be called dist, and let's see how that goes. So if we increase this, it will create this fall off. Why is not changing it to B-spline? Is this bleed? I guess it is. Let's maybe change it to Bezier, so that is fine. And let's go with 0.25. So this way they can overlap when we copy them around. And let's also do if center bigger than 0.7, we can set the Z position to be minus, and let's make it 0.25. So we have this indentation. And let's maybe smooth it. And the default settings are fine. And let's extrude it, so poly extrude. And we will go a distance of 0.3. And now we can bevel it. Ignore flat edges, increase the angle, and in this case I went to a value of 0.06 and 3 subdivisions. So this, I guess, will be fine. Now we can create the center part, and let's just do that quickly with the tube. And along the z-axis, and a radius of 1.25, a height of 0.24, and 64 columns and end caps. Now just blast the primitive 0 and polyfill it, so we can have a rounded look with the quadrilateral grids. It's always a difficult word to say, quadrilateral. So let's increase the surface offset to 0.5 and other than that is fine, totally fine. We can maybe play with this, and now we can just match size. And let's see, we can merge this. And in the match size we will need to adjust the depth, so in this case I used a value of -0.22 and set this to min and max. So this is totally fine. So let's maybe take this and create a subnet out of it and name it flower. And we have an output already, so it's fine. And now we can copy this over, so let's actually do that next. So copy the points and let's see how that looks. Of course we need to create some orientation attributes, as these won't look much. Let's first of all change the p scale, set an uniform p scale, so attribute adjust float, and set a p scale of 0.2, which is fine. And now this should be pretty simple. So let's create first the let's create an up attribute, so orient along curve, because we already have the normals, as you can see. So this is looking fine. We just need to create the up. So the up will be on here, so up. So it's oriented on the tangent. And let's create an attribute adjust vector, because we need to rotate to where the flower has that indentation, so towards that direction. And let's see if this is similar to the file I have. So we want to orientate the up, change to direction only, and rotate around the normal, so this is correct, and change this to -90. So yeah, this is correct. Let me check. Do we have the normals correct? I'm recomputing them now, so that's why they weren't correct. So now they are. So as you can see, we just rotated them to have that indentation, and the same goes for the up, which will orient them properly. So finally we can start to merge all of these. So this one and this one, and finally this one. And of course it will be a bit out of place because we need to pick it a little bit. Something like this. Let me check. In this case I used 0.04. So as you can see, it's not really perfect because I actually forget we need to create a bend deformer. So let's create a bend, press enter, B, change the angle in this case to 26 and keep pressing B. So this is it. So let's just set this to 0 and 0 and deform in both directions. So this should be fine. Let's see how that looks now. And that is looking better. It's not perfect, but you know, this is what we got today. So hopefully you got something out of this. I believe I'm not forgetting anything. And sorry if I did any mistake. I'm open to suggestions in the comments if you have any. And other than that, just check out my Patreon, where you can find all the project files from my videos alongside with exclusive tutorials. And I also have there 3 or 4 courses which are pretty cheap, so you can have a look at those. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Okay guys, I actually forget something. We can create here a box clip, labs box clip, and we will create also a bound, so we can tile this a little bit. And in the bounds, you want to play with the values, but I have some values of -1.1, 1.2, so 1.2 to clip the bottom, and -2.1 to clip the top. And we can just place a match size and set this to min, and now you can tile this any way you want it. I mean, you can tile it vertically. So yeah, that's it. See you.